Aaron Rodgers just got signed by the Steelers, but according to reports, he's already been waived before the season even began. Apparently, the reason involves serious locker room tension and behind-the-scenes issues that have the entire NFL world confused right now. Let me break it down. On May 16, 2026, ESPN's Adam Schefter reported that Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers reached agreement on a one-year deal. The contract is worth up to $25 million, with a base salary between $22 and $23 million and the rest in incentives. For context, last year Rodgers played for $13.65 million. So this is a significant pay bump for a quarterback who will turn 43 in December and is entering his 22nd NFL season. Only Tom Brady's 23 seasons have him beat among quarterbacks. But here is where the story takes a turn that very few people saw coming. This deal came after more than 4 months of Rodgers contemplating his future. 4 months. The Steelers waited patiently and the football world watched. Retirement rumors swirled every single week. Free agency came and went. The NFL draft happened in Pittsburgh, no less, and Rodgers was still unsigned. Art Rooney, too, the Steelers president, said he expected an answer before the draft. That deadline came and went. Then the team reportedly set an unofficial deadline of May 18th, the start of OTAs. Rodgers signed 2 days before that line. Now, on the surface, this looks like a happy reunion. The franchise gets its starter back. Rodgers gets another shot at a deep playoff run. But underneath, the cracks are already visible and they run deep. Because while Rodgers was taking his sweet time, the Steelers placed the rarely used unrestricted free agent tender on him. This is a move that almost never happens. It barred Rodgers from negotiating with other teams until July 22nd and would have entitled the Steelers to a compensatory draft pick if he signed elsewhere. The team was protecting itself. They were making sure that if Aaron Rodgers was going to play football in 2026, he was going to play it in Pittsburgh or nowhere at all. And while Rodgers debated his future, the Steelers didn't just sit around. They went out and selected Penn State quarterback Drew Aller in the 3rd round of the 2026 NFL Draft, a 3rd-round pick. Not a late-round flyer, not a camp body, a legitimate investment in the future of the position. Aller joined a room that already had Mason Rudolph and 2025 6th-round pick Will Howard. So now, with Rodgers signing, the Steelers have 4 quarterbacks. And as one ESPN reporter put it, the question is, who's the odd man out in a 4-person QB room? That question might have an answer that nobody expected. To understand why Aaron Rodgers' position in Pittsburgh is far from secure, you have to understand what happened to the Steelers organization between January and May of 2026. It started with a loss, a bad one. On January 12th, the Steelers fell to the Houston Texans in the AFC wildcard round, 30-6. The offense managed just 175 yards. It was a complete and utter embarrassment on the national stage. The kind of playoff performance that leaves bruises on an entire organization. Less than 24 hours after that defeat, Mike Tomlin stepped down as head coach. Tomlin, the man who had been at the helm for 19 consecutive seasons, the man who had never posted a losing record, the man whose tenure was the longest active run of any coach in the league. He walked away. He later said it wasn't an overnight decision, that it was about where he was personally in his life. But the timing told a different story. Tomlin left the day after the most lopsided playoff loss of his career. The shockwaves from Tomlin's departure were enormous. And when Tomlin stepped down, it seemed unlikely that Rodgers would re-sign with Pittsburgh. Part of the reason Rodgers had come to Pittsburgh in the first place was his trust in Tomlin. So with Tomlin gone, the assumption was that Rodgers would ride off into the sunset as well. But then Art Rooney too made a calculated decision. The Steelers hired Mike McCarthy, the Pittsburgh native, who had coached Rodgers for 13 seasons in Green Bay. The same Mike McCarthy who had won Super Bowl XLV with Rodgers in 2010. This was only the 4th head coaching change for the Steelers since 1969. After Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Tomlin, it was an earthquake. Rooney maintained that McCarthy wasn't hired just to lure Rodgers back. The reason, according to insiders, was the desire for a better, more modern offense. After decades of defensive-minded coaching, the Steelers were making a philosophical shift. McCarthy would call the plays on offense, something Tomlin never did. Everything from the practice drills, meeting times, and overall philosophy were different. From what Pittsburgh players had known for nearly 2 decades, McCarthy brought in a coaching staff with a mix of veteran and young minds. He arrived with a career record of 174-112-2 in the regular season, 1 Super Bowl title, 8 division titles, and 12 playoff appearances. But here is the piece that matters most. McCarthy arrived with a reputation as a quarterback guru. His stated mission wasn't just to win with Rodgers. It was to develop the quarterbacks behind him. And the moment the Steelers drafted Drew Aller, the clock started ticking on Aaron Rodgers' time in Pittsburgh in a way it hadn't before. McCarthy himself said at rookie minicamp that he loves the whole process of developing a quarterback from the very start of his NFL career. That's not something you say when you're planning to let a rookie sit on the bench untouched. That's something you say when you're building toward a future that by definition doesn't include a 42-year-old quarterback. Now let's address the elephant in the room, because the numbers are difficult to ignore. In his first season with the Steelers in 2025, Rodgers threw for 3,322 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions in 16 games. On the surface, those numbers look respectable, but the deeper metrics paint a vastly different picture. Rodgers was averaging career lows in passing yards per game, passing success rate, depth of target, and big-time throw rate. His average depth of target was 6.4, the lowest of his entire career. His big-time throw rate, a measure of how often a quarterback makes a truly elite throw, was 3.5%, also a career low. The arm talent that once defined Aaron Rodgers was slipping away. ESPN's analysis was even more pointed. The Steelers' offense ranked 17th in yards per play and 16th in points per drive. By advanced numbers, it was 21st in success rate and 16th in EPA per play. And the most damning finding, the Steelers' passing attack was the weaker half of its offensive identity, a shocking statement for a team led by a 4-time MVP. The problems had actually been building for years. From 2022 through to 2025, Rodgers ranked 30th out of 33 qualified passers in total QBR at 44.5. The only quarterbacks worse than him over that stretch were Mac Jones, Bryce Young, and Will Levis. These are names that nobody would have associated with Aaron Rodgers even 5 years ago, and yet statistically that is where he lived. Then there was the physical toll. In Week 11 of the 2025 season, during a victory over the Cincinnati Bengals, Rodgers suffered a small fracture in his left wrist. It was his non-throwing hand, but the injury still had ramifications. He missed 1 game, and Mason Rudolph filled in against the Chicago Bears. When Rodgers returned, the injury appeared to alter his behavior in the pocket. The fracture made Rodgers even more wary of getting hit, leading to quicker passes and a reluctance to stand tall against pressure. His pocket awareness, once the envy of the league, was nowhere near what it had been, which resulted in bad sacks and a propensity to release the ball quickly to avoid the rush. And once the playoffs arrived, the decline became impossible to hide. Against the Texans in the wild card round, the entire Pittsburgh offense produced just 175 yards. The final score was 30-6. Rodgers looked old. He looked slow. He looked like a man whose window had closed. ESPN's Ben Solak wrote after the re-signing that, by just about every stat, Rodgers was the worst quarterback to make the postseason in 2025. And if he somehow made it again in 2026, he'd likely be the worst in the field again. In a conference loaded with Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Drake May, and Patrick Mahomes, rolling the dice on a 42-year-old whose numbers are in free fall is a proposition that terrifies front offices. And Solak didn't stop there. He pointed out that there were better options for the Steelers than Rodgers. Kyler Murray signed with the Vikings for the veteran minimum of $1.3 million, a younger, more dynamic quarterback for a fraction of the price. The Steelers instead chose to pay Rodgers up to $25 million. This is where the situation becomes genuinely volatile. With Rodgers signing, the Steelers now have 4 quarterbacks on the roster: Aaron Rodgers, Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, and Drew Aller. 4 quarterbacks on a 53-man roster is, by NFL standards, an untenable situation. Someone has to go, and the decision the Steelers make will reveal exactly how they see Aaron Rodgers' role on this team. Let's break down the candidates. Rudolph has played in 19 games over his 7-year pro career, completing 64.4% of his career attempts for 30 touchdowns and 22 interceptions. He's the known commodity. He's reliable, experienced, and battle-tested in a way that neither Howard nor Aller can claim to be. He filled in for Rodgers against the Bears last season and performed competently. He's entering the second year of a 2-year, $7.5 million deal, and moving on from him would save the Steelers $3 million in salary cap space. Howard, the 6th-round pick from 2025, missed the entire 2025 preseason because of a hand injury, and spent most of his time on injured reserve. Neither Allard nor Howard has taken an NFL snap. Allard, the third-round pick from 2026, is undoubtedly talented, but McCarthy is essentially starting from scratch with his mechanics. He is widely considered an extremely raw prospect who needs a lot of attention on his footwork and ability to go through his progressions at the NFL level. So here's the calculus. If Pittsburgh wants to drop one quarterback before the start of the 2026 season, either Rudolph or Howard would likely be the odd man out. The Steelers aren't going to give up on Allard immediately after selecting him with a valuable draft pick, and Rodgers is the starter, at least for now. But what happens if the Steelers keep the younger guys and cut Rudolph? Then you're banking everything on a 42-year-old quarterback staying healthy for 17 regular season games plus playoffs. And behind him, two quarterbacks who have never played a single down in an NFL game. If the Steelers enter Week 1 against the Atlanta Falcons, with a quarterback room of Rodgers, Howard, and Allard, it would mark McCarthy's least experienced group of backups in his coaching career. And McCarthy, for his part, didn't want to discuss hypotheticals when asked if he would be comfortable going into the season with such an inexperienced group behind Rodgers. That silence is telling. There's another possibility that insiders have floated. If Rodgers returns, it's fair to expect the Steelers to consider trading Rudolph at the end of preseason action, fetching a late-round draft pick for the veteran. Or McCarthy could keep Rudolph as one of 6 veterans on the practice squad, though it's unclear whether Rudolph would accept that role instead of joining another team's active roster. But there's a scenario that almost nobody is talking about, and it's the most explosive one. What if the Steelers get to training camp, see what they have in Allard and Howard, and decide that developing those younger arms is more important than paying $25 million for a declining veteran? What if Rodgers gets hurt in the preseason? What if McCarthy sees enough from the young guys that he decides the future is now? Rodgers' contract is $22 million guaranteed, which means waiving him would carry a staggering financial cost. But teams have eaten dead money before when the long-term vision demands it. So, was Aaron Rodgers waived by the Steelers just after signing? As of right now, no. Aaron Rodgers has agreed to a 1-year deal, and he is expected to be in attendance for Pittsburgh's voluntary OTA sessions starting May 18. He is the unquestioned starter heading into 2026. The Steelers have not waived him, but the ingredients for a potential separation are all sitting right there on the counter. You have a 42-year-old quarterback whose skills have clearly diminished, and who was the worst quarterback to make the postseason last year. You have a new head coach who was hired specifically to modernize the offense and develop young quarterbacks. You have a third-round draft pick at quarterback, who the franchise just invested significant capital in. You have a crowded quarterback room that needs to be trimmed before the season starts. And you have a fan base that has not seen this team win a playoff game since 2016. A drought that is now approaching a full decade. The Steelers clearly believe that Rodgers gives them the best chance to compete right now. Teammates passionately encourage the organization to bring Rodgers back. His veteran leadership and experience are valued in a locker room that is going through the biggest organizational change since 2007, and his production was the best Pittsburgh has received in the post-Ben Roethlisberger era. For whatever that is worth, but football is a ruthless business. This is a league where loyalties dissolve the moment the math stops working. And for the Pittsburgh Steelers, paying a 42-year-old quarterback $25 million, while simultaneously grooming his replacement, is a tightrope act that could collapse at any moment during training camp, preseason, or even midseason. The Steelers didn't waive Aaron Rodgers. Not today, but the reason people believe it could happen, the age, the decline, the crowded roster, the new coaching philosophy, the franchise's desperation to finally win in the playoffs again. That part is real, and it is, for Rodgers and the Steelers alike, genuinely terrifying. Because the moment Aaron Rodgers can't go, the moment his body gives out, or the young guys flash enough potential, Pittsburgh won't hesitate. They've already shown they're willing to move on from legends. Mike Tomlin coached for 19 years and never had a losing record, and the Steelers let him walk away without a fight. Aaron Rodgers, for all his greatness, is one bad preseason away from the same fate. And that is the part that should terrify everyone involved.